So it's time to make granola. When your granola stash gets down this low, you know it's time to make granola. So I've got everything measured out here, so hopefully this will go smoothly. We have 6 cups of rolled oats, not quick cooking oats, just your regulation rolled oats. 1.5 cups of slivered almonds. And we have 1.5 cups of chopped pecans. This is a little more because it was the bottom of the bag and might as well use them up. Buy the big bag of pecans from Costco, a couple of batches of granola, a pecan pie, maybe a little pecan crusted salmon, and bam, it's gone, just like that. So, shredded coconut, another 1.5 cups. During the quarantine here, this has been a really difficult product to find. The last batch of granola was made with some sort of eco-groovy coconut that just wasn't the same. This is your sweetened, flaked coconut, the kind that Grandma used to bake with. And apparently Grandpa is baking with now. Oh, look, stragglers. And 3/4 cup of brown sugar. And you don't really want these lumps. It just makes it harder to mix in the long run. And then the last thing, and this is totally optional of course, but here's a 1/2 cup of flax seeds and a little more than 1/2 cup of pumpkin seeds. And we are going to mix and mix. And this is all the dry ingredients for this, except for the seasonings. And we'll get to that as soon as we get this part mixed together, because that's very important, and that's where you can put your own personal touch on a batch of granola. Okay, that's pretty good for now. Now, let's go raid the spice cupboard. We have ground cardamom, garam masala, nutmeg, and the main spice for this, cinnamon. And like I say, you can use whatever you'd like in here. It's totally up to you. And I'm going to start this right off. As you can see, we use a lot of this. We get it in bulk from the co-op and go through it. So I'm going to put in about 4 tablespoons of cinnamon. And obviously no attention paid to accuracy and measurement here. I like the cardamom in here a lot. So I'm going to use probably 2 tablespoons of cardamom. Maybe more like 1.5. I don't want to get carried away. Garam masala. I make my own garam masala. And that's another thing that you can make yourself and make it to your own taste. And I'm going to use about 1.5 tablespoons of that. See chunks. I'm going to have to try and sort out these chunks. Oh, that's a cinnamon stick right there. We don't need that. And then I like to add just a little bit of nutmeg. I don't like to get too carried away with this. It will be slightly less than 1 tablespoon of nutmeg. Just to kind of give it that warm, familiar taste. So now, we'll get that all mixed together. Lumps of sugar. We'll be adding some liquid ingredients to this, don't you worry. And one last, before I get done mixing this, we need about 3/4 of a tablespoon of salt. Yeah, close enough. Okay, now for our wet ingredients. We will use 3/4 of a cup of peanut oil. I love the extra flavor that this gives it by using peanut oil. And then, the reason I didn't measure this all out first is because I wanted to show you this. If you measure the oil first and the maple syrup second, all the maple syrup comes out of the measuring cup without any trouble. So another 3/4 of a cup of maple syrup. Okay, but see, it all came out. No muss, no fuss. And then we're going to add a little more salt to this. And whisk this up. And in we go. Now I'm going to do this in a couple of phases. I'm not going to put it all in at once, just to help with the mixing part. Get this mixed pretty well here. And give that another round. Now it's starting to get distributed pretty well. Now we'll get the rest of this in here. Since this is where all the sugar and fat comes from, I want to make sure I get every last little bit of it. Okay. Since we're dealing with such a large quantity of stuff, I found that I just can't quite get it mixed. And the best remedy is just to transfer it to another bowl. And you see how much is, we get all this stuff off the bottom this way. All right, so now a little final mixing, and we'll be ready to get this prepared for baking. So now that the film crew has cleaned up all my dirty dishes, it's time to get this ready to go in the oven. I have lightly oiled these two pans, and I'm just going to try and evenly distribute. And I like chunks in my granolas, so this is going to be how you would cook this if you like chunks. If you don't prefer chunks in your granola, you can loosely lay this in the pan and stir it as it cooks. I'm going to pack this down and I'm not going to stir it at all while it cooks. That one's got quite a bit more. Okay, and there you have it. We're ready to go. Oh, brown sugar. And the oven's ready. So I've got two shelves fairly close together. And this is at 250, and it's gonna cook for about 2 hours, and I'm gonna turn it every 40 minutes. And that's that. Okay, our first 40 minutes are done. You'll notice we're not seeing any browning. We're not going to see much browning with all the cinnamon on here. Doesn't really change color much when it cooks. But I'm rotating the pans and I'm rotating which rack they're on, just so it all cooks evenly. And I'll do that again in 40 minutes. And then probably at 20 minutes I'll do that again, and then it'll be 2 hours and it'll be done. No, that's not what I meant. 40 minutes. And there we go. So it is called two cooks in the kitchen, not just one. So there is another one here. So our granola now is cooled. It's all done cooking. It's cooled, and see it caramelized, so it's a little chunky. And this is where Kelly really likes the currants in the granola, so she gets to add them.
This is my job, other than washing dishes for hours. Put a cup of them on here. Scoop them all around. They're gonna get blended in. I'm not gonna just leave it like that. It's all going in one big pot. Okay, finish it up. Matthew likes to point out that he likes chunks of his granola, so I'm gonna kind of just do a light stir with the granola in there before I put it in my container. I think we should point out how we like to use the granola. There's a certain time of the day that Matthew likes a granola snack while he's working. I like to have mine with milk as an alternative breakfast. Just a little bowl of granola you don't even need very much. It's pretty rich. But I haven't been having any cereal because I wanted to make sure Matthew got his morning snacky poo.
This required a run to the grocery store before we could make this one. So we've been trying not to do that too often. But this week we just had to get all stocked up again.
Plus, when you're buying bulk items right now, you have to have somebody put it in containers for you. And I had 9 different bulk items. So I'm just going to store this in an airtight container. It's not all going to fit in here, so it'll be 2 airtight containers, and this batch will last, well, now that I can cereal again, will probably last a month to 6 weeks, I'd say. What do you think, Mr. Cook?
Sound right?
All those good crunchies in there. Delicious. All the parts. And makes another mess. We don't have a dog, so the cleanup crew will come and get it, which is me. Okay, that's about how it goes.
Okay, that's about it.
That's about it. Thank you for viewing Two Cooks in the Kitchen.